This is a very short recording, but one that I think you'll find useful in helping you to prepare for our next EdD weekend in May. What I'd really like you to do is just to begin to think about, in just very informal way, you don't need to read, you don't need to look at any academic sources, but just think about what gender is to you in your mind. Of course, gender is somewhat different to our biological sex, in that gender is often the attributes that are considered and attributed to those different biological sexes. So you've got the masculinity, or being masculine, that is associated with being male, and notions of femininity and being feminine that are associated more with being female. These different genders are often assigned different qualities, different skill sets, different dispositions. So the feminine being open, more in touch with their feelings, able to collaborate and work in groups. Men being much more disciplined, more independent, able to lead and follow rules. It's kind of important to think about these in relation to whether these are in fact biological differences that are the results of nature, of the way that the different sexes have evolved over time, or whether in fact these gender differences are much more about our individual identity, and those identities that are shaped in lots of ways collectively by the environment and by the social context in which we live. If we think about it, there are many different sources of influence that shape our understanding of who we are. Thinking back to the last weekend when we met, Bourdieu talks a lot about how the social environment shapes class dispositions, or class-based dispositions, should I say, towards choices and the things we value. Equally, that same sort of argument might be used to demonstrate the ways that our social context shapes our identity. So think about these two opposing viewpoints, really. Is gender the result of biology? Or is it more about the environment, much more about the way that we are socialised? It's kind of important to think about these things, I think, because as we know, there are many stereotypes around what it means to be a woman. Some you might think are positive, some fairly negative, and that's also true for men. There are very many negative stereotypes associated with being a man and what it means to be male. It matters, of course, because we know that there are a great deal of inequalities between the sexes and between the genders. We know that there are massive differences in the workplace, who goes into what type of role, in the kinds of roles that people choose to take. The career choices that they make can often be seen to be very gendered. Who gets promotion? There are great differences and inequalities there. Pay, massive discrepancies despite the introduction of the Sex Equality Act. Differences in who gets paid for what, who gets the top roles, who makes it to the very top and takes those most senior of leadership roles. But of course, perhaps from my point of view, there's quite a lot of differences in education. And when I'm talking about differences in relation to the gender, of course I'm talking about differences between boys and girls, and some of these we're going to explore when we meet in May. But I think what I'd really like you to do is just think about what gender is to you. Do you think it's something connected to nature, or is it much more about nurture? Perhaps it's a combination of both in your view. But just unpick your own position on this. Be reflexive, I guess, is what I'm asking you to be. I'm also going to be sending you a small YouTube clip. It's very short, I think it's about 4 minutes, and that will help you in considering this question in relation to a very simplistic portrayal of the nature-nurture debate. Anyway, I hope you'll find it interesting to explore gender. It's a topic I find very interesting. And I hope that this very short Camtasia clip has been helpful too. I don't think that was meant to come up there, but I didn't turn it off. Apologies.